Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here once again, and welcome back to the Christmas of Bruce Campbell. And if you happen to miss the previous videos in my Christmas of Bruce Campbell series, a link for that is popping up right now. And if you'd like to see me cover the classic Bruce Campbell franchise, The Evil Dead, here's a link for my Evil Dead October that I did with Taylor, one of the collaborators here on the channel a year or so ago. So, as I mentioned in the previous couple of videos, since I couldn't find enough actual Christmas Bruce Campbell content, I wanted to try to do some more obscure things from his filmography. And today definitely exemplifies that, because we're going to be talking about Assault on Dome 4. I guess that's 8 when I do it like that, but Assault on Dome 4. Assault on Dome 4 was a TV movie released in 1996, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 31 minutes. The film was directed by Gilbert Poe, off a script written by Hesh Repin, with a cast that includes, but is not limited to, Joseph Colt, Bruce Campbell, Jocelyn Seagrave, Byron James, and Ray Baker. And as always, I know that I absolutely mispronounced some of those names. Now, I am sure that some of you, because this is such an obscure movie, are asking, what the hell is Assault on Dome 4, other than a TV movie from 1996? Well, the plot involves terrorist Alex Wyndham, played by Bruce Campbell, who takes over a small scientific community of Dome 4 on another planet and forces its inhabitants to build him experimental bombs in the name of art. Wyndham is unaware, however, that Chase Moran, played by Joseph Culp, a futuristic cop or peacekeeper, is on Dome 4, having come there in secret to surprise his wife, played by Jocelyn Seagrave, for her birthday. But now, his surprise plans have shifted to foiling Alex's evil plot. So, having heard that now, if you're thinking that sounds a lot like Die Hard in space, there's a good reason for that. Because this movie is Die Hard in space. And I'm almost positive, in fact, that that's exactly how it was pitched and sold to the network that originally aired it, Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-Fi Channel has never really been known for quality original content, and don't worry, this film, if you're actually able to track it down, won't challenge that, okay? Now, as I said, this movie was actually relatively hard for me to track down. Couldn't find a physical copy of it, couldn't find it on a general streaming service, and then I just started looking for clips of it on YouTube. And that's where I found that the entire movie is actually on YouTube, so you can actually find it there if you really want to watch it. Which is interesting because I had to look pretty hard to find anything on this movie. Like, the trailer comes up pretty easily, but other than that, there's not a lot of people covering it. There's not a lot of videos reviewing it, or discussing it, or dissecting it, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to look at it. However, now that I have looked at it, I know exactly why there's not a lot of videos on it. Because outside of the whole, it's made by Sci-Fi Channel, Bruce Campbell plays a terrorist villain, and it's Die Hard in space, there's not a whole lot else to talk about with this movie. But, since we're here, and again, there's not a lot of people talking about it, I'm going to. And since this is the Christmas of Bruce Campbell, we're going to start off talking about Bruce Campbell in the movie. As I said, he plays the villainous terrorist who takes over Dome 4. He doesn't really assault Dome 4, he more just takes it over fairly easily. While Bruce Campbell is by no stretch of the imagination bad in this movie, he is in fact good in this movie, he is horribly, horribly wasted in this thing. The character he plays, Alex Wyndham, has a lot of really quirky, tropey 90s bad guy things going on, but the character is horribly underdeveloped and doesn't really give Bruce Campbell what he needs to either give a, straightforward, great performance, or give us what we expect from, the kind of over-the-top, hammy Bruce Campbell that we all have fun with. There's just not a lot going on the actual page. There are elements there that could make this character very entertaining and very interesting. Like I said, the whole thing is he wants to create these bombs for art. Now, that's never really explained. We never really find out why. Number one, how does creating these bombs to kill people work towards art? Is this like the Joker? in the Tim Burton Batman movie where he makes art till someone dies, we never get that kind of line. We do get several scenes where he talks about art, but it's always very vague, it's always very short, and again, it's not very well developed. And that is actually a fun idea. As I said, Tim Burton's Batman does it with Joker, and while that's something that I've never associated with Joker ever in my life, it is interesting and unique in of itself. So there is something you could do there, but it just doesn't do anything with it. We're never given, like, the origin of his obsession with art and death being intertwined. We never really get, like, a fully fleshed out scene where he explains his philosophy or anything like that. It's just horribly underdeveloped, and like so many other things in this movie, it actually plays a little too seriously and straightforward for you to really have the kind of fun with it that kind of idea should give you room to play with. Which I guess then can lead us into the next thing, which is the screenwriting of this film. There are some really good ideas in this movie, some things that if you were to play with them properly could be a lot of fun, but it takes itself so seriously and doesn't allow itself to have the kind of fun that you would associate with Die Hard in space, you know? Like, the movie Die Hard takes itself less seriously than this movie does, and that is saying something. Now, there are quips and there are one-liners and all that kind of stuff, but between the lines that are written and the way that it's delivered, it comes across very bland and very kind of, well, you know, TV movie from 1996. So maybe in that regard I'm judging it a little too harshly. But it's not just Bruce Campbell. As I said, the main character of the movie, the John McClane figure of this movie, is very stiff. He's very archetypal, and that's really all there is to him. There's nothing deeper going on beneath the surface. There's nothing interesting about him in any way, shape, or form. You know, and the supporting characters are about the same. Like, he's there to surprise his wife, who, again, like, she's a scientist who we never really learn. Like, she's supposed to be, like, a really good scientist and good at what she does, but, like, we never really get into that character enough for it to matter. And, like, while the actress is very good in most of the scenes, for the majority of the movie, she is just the damsel in distress who's worried about being assaulted by Bruce Campbell's character, even though he promises her that he will never do that. He'll never force himself on her. And it is just so bizarre to see this movie that has such over-the-top and theatric ideas behind it just play it so straight down the center. And it is just, at the end of the day, a waste of the potential of this concept. And it is made all the worse by the fact that not only is it so boring and bland, but on top of that, they added the framing device of the hero of the movie being taken in by his superiors at the beginning, and he's the one telling the story of what happened. So, even though there are scenes in the movie that should at least have some sense of tension, they never do, because we already know he gets out of it just fine. And it almost feels like those scenes were almost like reshoots because the movie didn't make sense to a producer or something like that. It's literally the same framing device as Ghost of Mars. And Ghost of Mars by John Carpenter is not a great movie, but I at least will give it that it is campy and over-the-top enough in places that it still has some entertainment value. And in this movie, that framing device structurally hurts the movie and hurts any sense of fun that we could have from it. Again, keep in mind, Die Hard in space. If Die Hard started off with John McClane having to explain his actions to a board of people, we never would get invested in his struggle or the things the character goes through, or even the moments where McClane gets hurt, which, by the way, our hero in this movie never actually has anything like that. Again, it takes all these cool ideas that are stupid but could be fun, and then, like, makes them as bland and boring as possible, and then on top of that removes any sense of tension or anticipation of where the story's gonna go. Likewise, the director has only ever directed two things: this movie and segments of another foreign film, which I could not find any information on or track down clips of or anything. If that movie was anywhere near as bad as this one, I understand why. And yeah, like, despite the fact that the writing's not really there, and this is a TV movie from the 90s, so, like, we shouldn't expect too much from it. But even within the realm of this being a TV movie that's made for very little money in the 90s, the directing and cinematography are just awful. Like, the way that scenes are blocked, the way that scenes are shot, again, it's just boring. And there are places in this where I'm looking and there are these set pieces that I'm pretty sure were designed for some other movie, and they look really good. Kinda. Like, they're very well designed, they're very well made, but with the, like, very flat lighting that is used in the film, they look like what they are. They look like sets. And in fact, like, if you were to light these things right, it'd look like something right out of the first Alien movie on the ship of the Nostromo. You know, like, there's all these cool little bits and stuff going on, you know, but then, like, you light them and they look like something from a freaking high school play with the way that they're lit. And then there are other scenes where they're supposed to be in these, like, sci-fi, like, super advanced technological, like, scientific facilities, and it looks like stuff that NASA used to put men on the moon back in the 60s, man. Like, and it's made in 96. Like, technology hadn't advanced that far, but if you look at, like, the technology that was actually around in 96, it was more advanced than any of the technology we see in this movie. And other sci-fi movies that came out at the same time, even low-budget ones, were doing things that are far superior. And again, I'm sure a lot of this had to do with budget. I'm sure that a lot of these are sets that were reused from other things. But again, when you combine that with the fact that it's shot so poorly and lit so poorly, you just end up with something that then you combine with the mediocre writing. There's nothing interesting happening on screen if Bruce Campbell's not there. And unfortunately for Bruce Campbell, even when he's there, there's not a lot that he can do with the material he's given, so most of the time, yeah, you're just bored, man. Like, okay, how much longer is left in this movie? I wish I wore a watch. And you must be saying to yourself, nerd scum, come on, it's Die Hard in space, so it can't be that boring. What about the action in the movie? Well, this is the best analogy I can give you for the action in the movie. If you ever watched an episode of the 90s version of Walker, Texas Ranger, not the new one with Sam Winchester in it, the original Walker, Texas Ranger, think about the way that those are shot, like TV action from the 90s. But then, imagine that the stunt choreography and the fights that are happening in it, I want to say they're like old James Bond movies, but even old James Bond movies are more exciting than this. What it's actually like is in Austin Powers 3, Goldmember, the scene where Michael Caine comes out and takes out the dudes with a couple of chops, making fun of the old James Bond movies. That's actually what most of this action looks like. And then every now and then they'll try to throw in a character who actually can do like a little bit of kung fu, but again, then you have the cinematography and the directing coming in, which makes stuff that is not really like advanced martial arts, but could be visually cool for 1996 and just makes it look as boring as everything else. You know, I've said multiple times throughout the course of the Christmas of Bruce Campbell that Bruce Campbell's done a lot of movies that aren't great movies, if we're being honest. Movies like Alien Apocalypse, or The Man with the Screaming Brain, but all of them on some level have some entertainment value, whether it's giving Bruce Campbell the amount of room that he needs to really chew up the scenery and be like the wacky fun Bruce Campbell that we like, or if it's giving him, like in the video I did for Running Time, giving him the opportunity to show what he can really do as an actor, or just giving us scenarios like Alien Apocalypse or Man with a Screaming Brain that are so bizarre and over the top and crazy that it just gives you a lot of room to both laugh with the movie and at the movie. Like, they provide a lot of entertainment value. And I have to say, out of everything I have ever watched that Bruce Campbell is in a major role at least, this is by far the most disappointing. Bruce Campbell does his absolute best in Assault on Dome 4. He really does. With the material he's given, he is charming, he does his best to be interesting, he even manages to come off as threatening a couple of times. But no matter what he does, he can't save this movie, man. I'm hoping that for him this movie was a paycheck that he never thought about twice after the production was done. Because that's what it feels like. So if you can't tell, I didn't care for this movie. Not at all. I was bored most of the time. I'm not a person who texts or scrolls through my phone while I'm watching movies. I just don't do it. I'm a filmmaker. I don't like it. I get angry when other people do it. But while this movie was on, I could not help but just sit there going, yeah, okay, they're gonna build bombs. That's cool. I wonder what's going on Instagram. Oh, that's funny. You know? Like, I couldn't help but do that, and then I'd catch myself doing it and be like, oh no, that's right, I'm watching a movie for a video. Damn. You know? So, I can't recommend this movie, but if you do want to watch it just to see, it is up on YouTube, like I said. You can definitely find it on there, and you can watch it for yourself and make your own determination. And once you do, I'd really like to know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, then make sure to subscribe so you can check out not only the final video in my Christmas of Bruce Campbell series, but all the other dope content I've got coming out on the channel. Thank you very much, children of the screen. I hope you have a good one, and a happy holidays. Nerd Scum, out.